The afternoon sun was harsh that day. Not warm. Not comforting. Just harsh. The street was busy, filled with people moving quickly, each one wrapped in their own life, their own problems, their own destination. Cars passed by, footsteps echoed, voices overlapped. But in the middle of all that noise, one man sat quietly on the sidewalk. His clothes were worn out. His shoes were torn at the edges. His face carried lines that no age could fully explain, lines carved by hunger, rejection, and years of being invisible. He was a beggar. He held out his hand, not aggressively, not loudly. Just a soft movement of the fingers. A silent request. "Please, anything helps," he said, his voice low, almost embarrassed by its own existence. Most people walked past him. Some avoided eye contact. Some pretended to be on their phones. Some looked at him for a split second and then quickly looked away. And then, they appeared. Kody Brown and Robyn Brown walked side by side down the street. Their clothes were clean. Their posture confident. Their expressions relaxed, the way people look when they feel they belong, everywhere. They were talking about something trivial. A plan. A complaint. Something that mattered to them, but to no one else. As they approached the beggar, he slowly lifted his hand again. "Sir, ma'am, please," he said softly. "I haven't eaten since yesterday." Kody stopped walking. Not because he felt sympathy. Not because he felt concern. But because something about the situation annoyed him. Kody looked down at the man, his face tightening. His eyes didn't show curiosity. They showed judgment. Robyn stood slightly behind him, arms crossed loosely, observing. Kody let out a short, sharp breath, a sound that carried irritation. "Why don't you get a job?" Kody said. The words fell heavy. Not loud. But sharp enough to cut. The beggar flinched. I try," the man replied quietly. "No one hires me. I just need something to eat." Kody laughed. Not a big laugh. Not a joyful one. A dry, dismissive laugh. "That's what they all say," Kody replied. "Always an excuse." Robyn finally spoke. "You shouldn't be bothering people like this," she said, her tone calm, but cold. "We all have problems." The beggar lowered his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. That should have been the end of it. An apology. A moment to walk away. But Kody didn't stop. He stepped closer. "You know," Kody said, his voice louder now, "people like you just take and take. No responsibility. No shame." That word hung in the air. Shame. Around them, people started to slow down. A woman pushing a stroller paused. A man near a shop entrance turned his head. Two teenagers stopped pretending not to listen. The beggar's hands began to shake. "I didn't choose this life," he said, barely audible. "I lost everything." Kody scoffed. "Everyone loses something," he replied. "That doesn't mean you sit on the street and beg." Robyn looked around, noticing the attention now. "Kody," she said quietly, "let's go." But Kody felt something else now. Not righteousness. Not truth. Power. He was standing. The man was sitting. He had money. The man had nothing. "You're making people uncomfortable," Kody continued. "Have some dignity." At that moment someone spoke from the crowd. "Hey," a middle-aged man said. "That's enough." Kody turned sharply. "What?" he snapped. The man stepped forward. "He asked for help," the man said. "You don't have to give it, but you don't get to humiliate him." More people started murmuring. "That was unnecessary. So cruel. Why talk like that?" Kody felt the shift. The air wasn't on his side anymore. A woman whispered loudly, not caring if he heard. "Shameless." The word spread. "Shameless. Absolutely shameless. How can someone talk like that?" Robyn's face tightened. She grabbed Kody's arm. "Let's leave," she said urgently. Kody looked around. For the first time, he wasn't the one judging. He was being judged. The beggar still sat there, silent now, eyes fixed on the ground. Someone from the crowd stepped forward and placed food in the man's hand. Another person gave him water. No one looked at Kody anymore. They looked through him. Kody turned away, his jaw clenched. As he walked off with Robyn, the word echoed in his mind. Shameless. But he told himself something else. They're overreacting, he muttered. I did nothing wrong. Robyn didn't reply. Behind them, the street returned to its noise. But something had already changed. Because that day wasn't over yet. And what began as a moment of cruelty was about to turn into a lesson neither of them expected. When silence turns into consequence. That evening, the sky changed colors slowly. Orange faded into gray. Gray dissolved into night. Kody Brown and Robyn Brown sat inside their car, driving away from the street where everything had happened. The city lights blurred past the windows, but neither of them spoke. The silence was heavy. Not peaceful. Not calm. Heavy. Kody gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. His jaw was locked, his eyes fixed on the road, but his mind was somewhere else, back on that street, back on those faces. Shameless. The word echoed again. They had no right to talk to me like that, Kody finally said, breaking the silence. I was just telling the truth. Robyn stared out the window. You didn't have to say it like that, she replied quietly. Kody scoffed. So now you're taking their side? That's not what I said, Robyn answered. I just think it got out of control. Kody laughed bitterly. No, he said. It got judged. By people who don't know anything about me. Robyn didn't respond. Because deep down, something inside her felt unsettled. That night, the beggar remained on the street. But he wasn't alone anymore. A woman from the crowd returned with a blanket. A shop owner brought leftovers. Someone else offered a few dollars. Not out of pity. Out of humanity. The beggar held the food with shaking hands. Tears filled his eyes, not because of hunger, but because someone had finally looked at him like a human being. I won't forget this, he whispered. The next morning came quietly. Sunlight filled Kody and Robyn's house. Birds chirped outside. Life looked normal. But normal doesn't always mean peaceful. Kody sat at the kitchen table scrolling through his phone. At first, he was half asleep, uninterested. Then he saw it. A video. The title read, Couple publicly humiliates homeless man, bystanders step in. His thumb froze. That can't be, he murmured. He tapped the screen. The video played. There he was. His voice. His words. Clear. Undeniable. Robyn appeared behind him in the frame, arms crossed, silent. The comments loaded beneath. Thousands of them. This was disgusting. How can someone be so cruel? Shameless behavior. No excuse for this. Kody felt his chest tighten. They recorded me? He said, disbelief turning into anger. Robyn leaned over his shoulder, watching silently. They didn't cut anything, she said softly. They just showed what happened. Kody slammed the phone down on the table. This is unfair, he snapped. They don't know the full story. Robyn looked at him. What is the full story, Kody? He opened his mouth. Then stopped. Because for the first time, he couldn't find the words. Outside, the world was reacting. The video spread fast. Faster than explanations. Faster than excuses. People recognized them. At the grocery store, whispers followed them down the aisles. At a cafe, conversations stopped when they walked in. Someone stared openly. Someone else shook their head. A woman near the checkout muttered loud enough to hear. That's him. Kody felt heat rise in his face. Robyn clutched her purse tightly. Let's just go, she whispered. Later that day, Robyn sat alone in the living room. The TV was on, but she wasn't watching. Her mind replayed the moment. The beggar's voice. The way he said sorry. The way his shoulders collapsed inward. She hugged her knees to her chest. Did we really need to say all that? She thought. She remembered her own past struggles. Times when help mattered. Times when kindness changed everything. And then she remembered her silence. She hadn't stopped it. That realization hurt more than the comments online. Meanwhile, Kody paced back and forth in another room. They're trying to cancel me, he muttered, twisting everything. But even as he said it, something inside him felt hollow. Because the video didn't twist anything. It only reflected. That evening, Robyn approached him carefully. Kody, she said, maybe we should apologize. He stopped pacing. Apologize? He repeated slowly. Yes, she replied. Not for them. For us. Kody stared at her. Why should I apologize? He snapped. He chose that life. Robyn's voice trembled. No one chooses to lose everything. The words landed harder than any comment online. Kody turned away. Because deep down, he knew something was coming. Not public backlash. Not reputation damage. Something heavier. A moment where excuses would no longer work. And that moment was getting closer. The past no one wanted to see. The night was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where thoughts become louder than words. The beggar sat alone under a dim streetlight, wrapped in the blanket someone had given him. The city around him slept, but his mind refused to rest. He stared at his hands. Hands that once held tools. Hands that once signed papers. Hands that once lifted a child into the air. People only saw what he was now. They never asked who he had been. Years ago, his life was different. He had a small apartment. A steady job. A family photo framed neatly on a shelf. He wasn't rich. But he was proud. Then came the accident. A sudden fall at work. A shattered leg. Months without income. Bills piled up faster than hope. His employer replaced him. The landlord grew impatient. Friends stopped calling. Medical debt swallowed everything. And one day, he stood outside his own apartment with a notice taped to the door. Evicted. That was the day the world stopped calling him by his name. From that moment on, he became invisible. Back in the present, the beggar closed his eyes. He remembered the way Kody had looked at him. Not angry. Not curious. Dismissive. Like he wasn't worth understanding. The words still burned. Have some dignity. He let out a slow breath. If dignity was enough, he whispered to the empty street, I wouldn't be here. Across town, Kody couldn't sleep. He lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, phone glowing in his hand. The comments kept updating. More views. More reactions. More judgment. He scrolled without reading carefully. Until one comment stopped him. I was homeless once. Not because I was lazy, but because life broke me faster than I could stand back up. Kody swallowed. Another comment followed. The scariest thing about being poor is how easily people decide you deserve it. His thumb hovered over the screen. He locked the phone. But the words stayed. In the early morning hours, Robyn sat at the kitchen table, a cup of untouched coffee growing cold in front of her. She hadn't slept either. Her mind kept returning to one moment, the beggar's apology. I'm sorry. Why did he apologize? She wondered. What had he done wrong? She opened her laptop and searched. Not their names. Homeless shelters. Food programs. Stories. Real stories. She read about people who lost jobs, families, health, homes, sometimes all at once. She felt her chest tighten. These aren't excuses, she whispered to herself. They're lives. Later that morning, something unexpected happened. Kody received a message. Not hate. Not criticism. An invitation. A local community group was organizing a volunteer outreach, food distribution, clothing, medical checkups. The message was short. If you truly believe in accountability, come see what accountability looks like when life collapses. Kody stared at the screen. His first instinct was anger. Then defensiveness. Then silence. Robyn walked into the room. "What is it?" she asked. Kody showed her the message. She read it slowly. "This could be a chance," she said carefully. "A chance for what?" he replied. "To listen," she answered. "Not to speak. Not to explain. Just listen." Kody looked away. Because listening meant risk. Listening meant hearing things that might not fit his version of the world. And that scared him more than criticism ever had. That afternoon, the beggar woke up to something new. A volunteer approached him. "We're doing food distribution today," the woman said gently. "You're welcome to join us." He hesitated. Years of rejection had taught him caution. But he nodded. "Yes," he said. "Thank you." As he stood up, he didn't know that soon, very soon, his path would cross again with the same people who had judged him. Only this time, the roles would not feel the same. The city moved forward. So did the story. And somewhere between pride and regret, between judgment and truth, a moment was approaching. One that would force everyone involved to face something far more uncomfortable than shame. Reality. When reality doesn't raise its voice. The community center parking lot was already busy. Cars lined up. Volunteers moved back and forth carrying boxes. The smell of warm food filled the air. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was real. Kody stood near the entrance, hands in his pockets, unsure where to stand. Robyn was beside him, quieter than usual, observing everything carefully. No cameras. No crowd watching them. Just people doing what needed to be done. A volunteer handed Kody a pair of gloves. "Food station's over there," she said simply. No judgment. No praise. Just direction. Kody nodded and walked toward the table. He expected discomfort. He expected resentment. What he didn't expect was the silence. Not an awkward silence. A focused one. On the other side of the lot, the beggar stood in line. Cleaned up a little now. New jacket. Still tired eyes. He held a tray, waiting patiently. He didn't notice Kody at first. And when he did, he stopped. Just for a second. Their eyes met. No anger. No accusation. Just recognition. Kody felt something twist inside his chest. The man didn't look smaller today. He looked human. Kody looked away first. He focused on handing out food. Plate after plate. Person after person. Some smiled. Some didn't speak at all. One woman whispered, "Thank you," like it meant more than food. A young man nodded with quiet respect. An elderly man held Kody's hand for a second longer than expected. "Appreciate you," the man said. Kody didn't know what to say. So he just nodded. Robyn worked at the clothing table. She helped the mother choose a coat for her child. She knelt down to tie a little girl's shoe. She listened when an older woman talked, really listened. At one point, Robyn felt tears sting her eyes. Not from sadness. From shame. Because kindness turned out to be easier than judgment. The line moved forward. Eventually, the beggar reached the food table. Kody froze. The man stood there quietly, holding out his tray. No words. Kody placed food on the plate. His hands trembled. The man looked up. For a long moment neither spoke. Then the beggar said softly, "Thank you?" 2 words. No bitterness. No reminder. Just gratitude. That was the moment something inside Kody cracked. Not loudly. Not visibly. But deeply. He nodded, unable to speak. The man walked away. And Kody stood there, staring at the empty space he left behind. Later, as the event wound down, Kody sat alone on a bench. The noise faded. The work ended. But the weight remained. Robyn sat beside him. Neither spoke for a while. Finally, Kody broke the silence. "I thought responsibility meant strength," he said quietly. "I didn't realize how fragile life really is." Robyn looked at him. Strength isn't refusing to help, she said. It's knowing when someone needs it. Kody nodded slowly. For the first time in a long time, he didn't argue. As the sun lowered, the beggar prepared to leave. A volunteer handed him a small card. It's a job training program, she said. Just an option. He held the card carefully. Thank you, he said again. As he turned, he noticed Kody watching him. Their eyes met one last time. This time, Kody spoke. I'm sorry, he said. Not loud. Not public. Just real. The man studied his face for a moment. Then nodded. I hope you mean it, he replied. And he walked away. That evening, Kody and Robyn drove home in silence again. But this silence was different. Not heavy. Reflective. Because some lessons don't arrive as punishment. They arrive as mirrors. And once you see yourself clearly, you can never unsee it. The apology didn't end anything. It only began something heavier. That night, Kody couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, but his mind wasn't. Every sound, the ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, felt louder than usual, like the silence was demanding answers he didn't have. He replayed the moment again and again. The man's eyes. Not angry. Not grateful. Just tired. Kody sat up in bed, rubbing his face. I said sorry, he whispered to himself. So why doesn't it feel finished? Because some apologies don't erase the past. They expose it. Robyn lay awake too. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about the little girl whose shoes she tied, the mother who couldn't meet her eyes while choosing a coat, the way kindness felt strangely unfamiliar at first. She turned toward Kody. Do you think one apology fixes it? She asked softly. Kody didn't answer right away. No, he finally said. I think it just proves how late it is. Robyn closed her eyes. That honesty scared her more than denial ever did. Across town, the beggar sat on a bus stop bench, holding the small card the volunteer had given him. Job training program. Orientation date. An address. It wasn't hope yet. But it wasn't nothing. He ran his thumb over the edge of the card, feeling its weight like it could disappear if he wasn't careful. I've seen promises before, he murmured. But I'll try. One more time. He folded the card and placed it deep inside his pocket. Not ready to trust it. But not ready to throw it away either. The next few days passed slowly. For Kody and Robyn, life didn't return to normal. It couldn't. At the grocery store, people still recognized them. At the cafe, conversations still paused. But something else changed too. No one shouted. No one confronted. They just watched. And being watched without hostility felt worse. Because it left room for reflection. One afternoon, Kody received another message. This one wasn't public. It was private. From someone he didn't know. I was the man in the crowd that day. I didn't speak up in time. I regret that. But I want you to know, the problem wasn't what you said. It was that you said it without curiosity. Kody read it twice. Then a third time. Curiosity. The words stayed with him. That evening, he drove alone. No destination. Just movement. He passed streets he never noticed before. Shelters. Soup kitchens. Corners where people sat quietly, holding signs that said nothing more than help. He parked the car. Watched. For the first time, he didn't ask why are they here. He asked something else. What happened to them? Meanwhile, the beggar attended the orientation. The room was small. The chairs mismatched. The coffee terrible. But the instructor spoke with patience. You're not behind, she said to the group. You're just restarting. The beggar felt his throat tighten. Restarting. Not failing. Restarting. That night, Kody came home later than usual. Robyn noticed. Where were you? She asked. Learning how little I know, he replied. She studied his face. For the first time since everything happened, she saw uncertainty there. Not defensiveness. Uncertainty. And somehow, that felt like progress. Outside, the city moved forward. So did the man on the street. So did the couple who once judged him. But none of them knew yet that the hardest part wasn't humiliation, wasn't apology, wasn't even forgiveness. It was what came after. Change. The days after the outreach event moved slowly, almost painfully so. Nothing dramatic happened. No headlines. No confrontations. Just time. And time has a strange way of forcing people to sit with themselves. Kody woke up earlier than usual now. Not because he needed to, but because sleep no longer came easily. When it did, it was shallow. His dreams were filled with half-finished conversations and faces that said nothing but somehow accused everything. He stood by the kitchen window one morning, watching the street outside. People walked by carrying groceries, backpacks, coffee cups. Everyone looked busy. Purposeful. At one point, a man stopped near the trash can across the street and searched through it quietly. Efficiently. Like he had done it many times before. Kody watched longer than he meant to. He didn't feel anger. He didn't feel superiority. He felt confusion. How close is the line? He asked himself quietly. How thin is it? Robyn noticed the change before he said anything about it. He spoke less. Listened more. When she talked about her day, he didn't interrupt. When she mentioned something uncomfortable, he didn't deflect. One evening, she finally asked, "What's going on inside your head?" Kody thought for a long moment. "I don't trust my instincts anymore," he said. "I used to think my judgments were clarity. Now they feel shallow." Robyn nodded slowly. "That's what growth feels like sometimes," she said. Unstable. He didn't argue. Across the city, the man who had once sat on the sidewalk now followed a routine. Wake up early. Attend training. Fill out forms. None of it was easy. The chair in the classroom hurt his back. The instructions felt overwhelming at times. He was older than most people there. Slower. But no one laughed. No one dismissed him. One afternoon, during a break, someone asked him, "What did you do before all this?" He hesitated. "I worked," he said simply. "I lived." That answer stayed with him. He lived. Not survived. Not failed. Lived. At night, when he lay down at the shelter, he thought about dignity. Not the kind people throw at you as an insult. The quiet kind. The kind that returns when someone trusts you with responsibility again. Back at home, Kody opened his phone and deleted several social media apps. Not as a statement. As a relief. He didn't want opinions. He wanted understanding. He started reading instead. Articles. First-hand accounts. Stories written by people who never expected their lives to collapse. Patterns emerged. Illness. Job loss. One missed payment. One accident. Rarely laziness. Almost never choice. One night he said out loud, "I didn't know." Robyn replied softly, "Most people don't. That's the problem." The weeks passed. Quietly. One afternoon, Kody received a message from the same community group again. Not an invitation this time. A question. "Would you like to help with planning?" He stared at it for a long time. Planning meant commitment. Visibility. Consistency. It meant this wasn't just about fixing an image. It was about changing habits. He typed back one word. Yes. The first planning meeting was uncomfortable. He sat in a circle with people who had lived the reality he once judged from a distance. He didn't speak much. When he did, he asked questions instead of giving opinions. At one point, a woman looked at him and said, "You're trying. That matters. But don't rush forgiveness." He nodded. "I'm not asking for it," he said. "I'm earning awareness." She smiled slightly. That night, the man in training received his first small assignment. Temporary. Modest pay. Simple responsibility. He held the paper in his hands longer than necessary. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't success. But it was movement. He stepped outside and looked up at the sky. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to imagine a future without immediately doubting it. Elsewhere, Kody sat alone in the living room, lights off, thinking about how easily words leave the mouth and how long they stay in the world. He understood something now. Shame doesn't teach. Humiliation doesn't correct. Only understanding does. And understanding takes time. The story was far from over. No one had fully healed. No one had fully changed. But something important had begun. A slow shift. Quiet. Uncomfortable. Real. Morning arrived without ceremony. No dramatic sunrise. No sense of renewal. Just another day that demanded effort. The man woke up before the shelter lights turned on. His body still ached, but the ache felt different now. It wasn't just exhaustion. It was adjustment. Muscles remembering movement. Mind remembering responsibility. He washed his face at the sink and looked at his reflection. Older than he remembered. Thinner. But steadier. He folded his blanket neatly before leaving. No one told him to. He just did. Outside, the air was cold. He pulled his jacket tighter and walked toward the bus stop, paper with the temporary job address folded carefully in his pocket. Every step felt like a decision. Not hope. Not confidence. Decision. Across town, Kody sat at the dining table with a notebook in front of him. It had been years since he wrote anything by hand. His handwriting looked unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else. He wrote slowly. Questions. Not answers. What do people need first? What did I assume instead of ask? Why did power feel like certainty? He stopped, pen hovering. For the first time, he allowed himself to write something else. I was wrong. The words didn't feel heavy anymore. They felt accurate. At the planning meeting later that day, Kody arrived early. He listened as people discussed logistics, resources, failures from previous attempts. No one spoke in ideals. They spoke in limits. We can't help everyone, one man said. But we can stop pretending some people deserve nothing. Kody nodded. That sentence stayed with him. Meanwhile, the man arrived at the job site. It wasn't impressive. A warehouse. Dusty floors. Stacks of boxes. The supervisor handed him gloves and gave simple instructions. Take your time, the supervisor said. Accuracy matters more than speed. No suspicion. No pity. Just expectation. The man worked slowly, carefully. He focused on doing one thing right at a time. When his back hurt, he paused. When his hands shook, he steadied them. No one yelled. At lunch, he sat alone and ate quietly. Halfway through, someone sat across from him. You knew? The man asked. Yes, he replied. Me too, the man said, smiling faintly. That was all. But it was enough. That evening, Robyn noticed Kody was different again. Not quieter this time. More deliberate. You look tired, she said. I am, he replied. But not empty. They ate dinner without the television on. Talked about ordinary things. Groceries. Weather. A repair that needed doing. Normal conversation. But underneath it, something had shifted. Later, Robyn asked, Do you ever think about him? The man? Kody nodded. Every day, he said. But not the way I used to. How then? As a reminder, he answered. Not a symbol. The days continued. The man completed his first week of work. At the end, the supervisor handed him an envelope. It's not much, he said. But it's yours. The man held the envelope carefully. He didn't open it right away. He waited until he was alone. When he counted the money, his hands trembled. Not because of the amount. Because it was earned. That night, he allowed himself a small luxury. He bought a hot meal instead of eating leftovers. He sat at a table. Inside. Warm. No one stared. Back home, Kody received an update from the community group. A program expansion was approved. Limited funding. Clear conditions. Sustainable involvement. No performative gestures. Long-term presence. Kody agreed to the terms without hesitation. He understood now. This wasn't about redemption. It was about responsibility that didn't end when attention faded. The man lay down that night, staring at the ceiling of the shelter. The noise around him felt less overwhelming than before. He wasn't just passing time anymore. He was moving through it. And somewhere between effort and patience, something unfamiliar began to form. Trust. Not in people. Not yet. In process. The routine settled in slowly, like dust after movement. Not all at once. Not comfortably. But steadily. The man learned the rhythm of the warehouse. The sound of carts rolling. The way light shifted through the high windows. Which boxes were heavier than they looked. Which muscles complained first. He made mistakes. He corrected them. No one shouted. No one mocked. When he apologized, the supervisor said, "Fix it and move on." Those words mattered more than anyone realized. At the shelter, he started sleeping deeper. Not well. But better. His body began trusting that morning would come with purpose instead of uncertainty. He stopped counting days. Started counting tasks. Across town, Kody attended his third planning meeting. He spoke more this time, but carefully. He didn't lead. He supported. When someone challenged his idea, he didn't defend it immediately. He asked why. That surprised people. It surprised him too. After the meeting, a woman approached him. "You're different from the first time," she said. Kody nodded. "I hope so." She studied his face for a moment. "Consistency will decide," she replied. He accepted that without argument. At home, Robyn noticed the shift becoming permanent. Not performative. Not temporary. He followed through. He showed up. He stayed. One evening she said, "You don't talk about proving anything anymore." Kody thought about it. "I don't feel the need to," he said. "I feel the need to understand." The man received an offer at the end of the month. Not full stability. Not security. Extended hours. More responsibility. He read the paper twice before signing. That night, he didn't tell anyone. He just sat quietly and let the decision settle inside him. In the following weeks, he moved out of the shelter into a shared room. Small. Plain. But his. He placed his bag on the floor and sat down. No celebration. No relief. Just silence that didn't threaten him. He bought a second chair from a thrift store. Not because he needed it, but because someday someone might sit there. Time passed. The city changed seasons. Kody continued his involvement. Not publicly. Not loudly. He learned names. Learned stories. Learned when to step back. Sometimes he still caught himself making assumptions. When he did, he stopped. That became his practice. One afternoon, months later, Kody saw the man again. Not on the street. Not in need. At a distribution site, helping unload boxes. They recognized each other immediately. No tension. No rush. Kody walked over. The man nodded. They stood side by side for a moment, lifting boxes in silence. Then the man said, "I'm working now." Kody nodded. "I know," he replied. "I'm glad." That was all. No apology. No explanation. Just acknowledgement. They went back to work. The world didn't pause. No lesson announced itself. But something had completed a quiet circle. The man returned home that night tired but steady. He sat in his room, wrote down expenses, planned the week. Kody returned home as well, removed his shoes, sat down without exhaustion. Both understood something now. Change doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. And dignity doesn't come from being seen as better. It comes from being treated as real. The weeks turned into months without asking for permission. Life didn't suddenly become kind. It became manageable. The man's mornings started earlier now. He woke before his alarm, not because he feared losing the day, but because he knew where it was going. He made simple breakfasts. He checked his schedule. He learned the weight of responsibility again, not as pressure, but as structure. At work, people began trusting him with more. Not praise. Not encouragement. Trust. That was heavier than anything he lifted. He still had bad days. Days when his body hurt too much. Days when memories returned without warning. Days when he wondered how close he had come to never leaving the street. On those days, he sat quietly and let the feeling pass. He no longer fought it. He no longer judged it. Across the city, Kody faced his own quiet tests. The community work grew complicated. Funding didn't stretch far enough. Volunteers burned out. Some people disappeared after one bad week. There were moments when he felt the old instinct rise, the desire to simplify, to label, to conclude. When that happened, he stopped. He reminded himself of the street, of the silence, of the man who said thank you without asking for forgiveness. That memory became his restraint. Robyn saw the toll it took. "You don't have to carry everything," she said one night. "I know," Kody replied. "But I have to carry my part." They learned how to sit together in that understanding. No speeches. No reassurance. Just presence. The man saved money slowly. He learned to say no to small comforts so he could say yes to stability later. He bought a used phone. He reconnected with an old contact, not to ask for help, but to say he was still alive. That mattered more than he expected. One afternoon, he walked past the corner where he once sat. Someone else was there now. Younger. Thinner. Eyes scanning the ground with practiced caution. The man slowed. He didn't speak right away. He remembered what it felt like to be invisible. He handed the young man food. Then sat beside him, not too close. "You don't owe me anything," he said quietly. "But if you want, there's a place that helps." He gave directions. No lecture. No judgment. Then he stood and walked away. That night, he realized something had shifted. He was no longer defined by what he escaped. He was defined by what he extended. Kody attended a small gathering at the community center months later. No press. No recognition. Just people eating together. He watched conversations overlap. Watched small kindnesses pass unnoticed. This was the work. Unremarkable. Uncelebrated. Necessary. He felt no pride. No shame. Only alignment. The man finished another work cycle. His supervisor handed him a new contract. Longer term. Clear expectations. He signed it without trembling this time. When he got home, he placed the paper in a folder. Not because it was precious, but because it was practical. That night, he sat in the second chair he once bought. Just in case. He waited. No one came. And that was okay. Because waiting no longer felt like punishment. It felt like space. Time continued. Quietly. Without spectacle. And in that quiet, something rare happened. Two lives moved forward, not redeemed, not rewarded. Just corrected. By patience. By restraint. By the slow refusal to remain who they once were.